Hi Rick, how are you
Good,
doing?
good morning, Izzy. I'm doing very well. How are you?
Yes, very good. I'm very
Good.
excited about this exciting new project that we've got launching today.
Absolutely.
Um, just to give people a bit of background, where has this idea come from for the UK Carbon Zero Explorer?
Well, as you say, we're pretty excited by it because there's a lot that's happening right now around the UK. And what we wanted to do is just to give people, wherever they are, an easier way or a different way to discover what's going on in their local community in terms of how they're responding to the climate crisis. And because there is so much happening in parallel in so many different places, it's also interesting not only to discover what's happening close to you, but also to see what's happening maybe in the next borough or somewhere else in the country, because there's a lot, hopefully, that we can learn from one another.
Yeah.
And that's really the essence of putting this tool together.
Yeah, and it's kind of what Carbon Copy is all about, right? It's about inspiring people to take action in their local area. So it's just a
Yeah,
perfect.
and literally, to copy a great idea, to adapt something, to find out what's working and not working, and just to make that process of learning and discovery easier.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think now we're gonna share screens and we're gonna have a look at the Explorer in real life.
So yeah, so here it is. If you come to the Carbon Copy website, you will find this landing page, which is, I find, quite amazing. It basically shows you all the different local authority areas across the country, and it gives you an indication of their level of ambition in terms of when they want to get to net zero carbon. And it's anywhere from, we haven't declared a climate emergency yet, through to, we've got a plan, but no date, through to, we're in line with the national target, which is to be net zero by 2050, all the way to, we're going to get there by the end of this decade, which is very ambitious and very exciting. And for me, and this may surprise a lot of people, green shows those councils, those local authority areas that want to get there by 2030. Look how green
It's
the
most of
map
the
of the UK.
country, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm not sure that people appreciate how much local ambition there is and energy around getting to net zero a lot sooner and a lot quicker than 2050, which for me is a good news story.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So let's have a look at how it works. If you move around the map, what can you see?
Sure. So you can click on any of these different areas, and first of all, you can just see it a bit more easily. You can zoom in, but I won't bother. Let's just stay at this level. But you see what their target date is, and you get an indication of their current emissions level. And if you click on the link, and there's a link for each area, you go through to their specific page for more detail. So I've just clicked on Cornwall, for instance.
Okay.
And I could walk you through a little bit what you see on the page. So for Cornwall, for instance, the first thing is to get a little bit more information on what their climate action plan is about. What we've done is where it's publicly available, we've got a link so you can go straight to the plan.
Yeah.
Which helps because sometimes it might be a little bit hard to find where the latest plan is.
Yeah, I think
this makes it accessible.
That's something that I've been told by people, is that they don't, they don't know where that's saved. They don't know how to access it necessarily. So it's lovely to have it all in one place for people to find. Definitely.
Great. The other thing that's interesting that we just wanted to call out is the plan scope. Maybe some people think that because the council have taken the lead in putting this local plan together, that it's all about the council's specific property, buildings, fleet, street lamps, etc. And in some cases, it is. It's very much, here's what the council is going to do with regards to things that are within their direct control. But for many more plans, the plan covers the entire local area. And therefore, it's a plan that involves all of us.
Yeah.
It's been put together with the leadership of the local council, but it's going to happen by the leadership from everybody that lives locally.
So that really is kind of how our involvement as Carbon Copy works in terms of we're highlighting people across the country who are taking action in some way, and they could be from community organizations or from councils or from companies even that are doing different kinds of low carbon work, and all of that is contributing to these local climate action plans.
Absolutely. And so we just want to make sure that some of those connections are being made, that there are some phenomenal plans out there, and there's also a phenomenal amount of activity that's happening within community groups and other organizations locally, and we're all working towards the same destination. And so again, this is just it's just another way to access that kind of plan, and making sure that we're working together and working as efficiently as we can.
Yeah. So this next part is, I love this. It's about helping people to understand, what the CO2 emissions actually mean, because I think these numbers are so enormous, and people really struggle to sort of visualize what hundreds of thousands of tons of CO2 actually looks like. So we've come up with this lovely idea of a large hot air balloon is sort of roughly 1 metric ton of gas of CO2.
Yeah.
And just looking at this here, per person in Cornwall, it's roughly nearly 5 tons.
Yeah.
So that's not the people emitting the gas. That's the amount of gas that's released across the whole amount of emissions across the whole area, divided up per person.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And I think that's worth clarifying. Like you say, we're not saying that that's necessarily the emissions per person, that they're responsible for that, but it gives you an indication of, for that population in that local area, if you average that out per person, what's that equivalent to?
Yeah.
So it's like almost like you say, almost 5 large hot air balloons per person for every single person in Cornwall.
Yeah.
And the number of people in the local area here, it's over 500,000, and then you times that by almost 5. That's almost 2.5 million hot air balloons overhead over the course of 1 year.
It's a lot of hot air balloons.
It is. And I think it's just some way of just trying to get our heads and wrap our heads around some pretty big numbers.
Yeah.
And to just make it a bit more tangible, so we know what it is we're trying to do, and the ambition and the transformation that's needed to reduce that number.
Exactly.
Another way of looking at it is to see where the local emissions are coming from. And here we are very lucky in the UK, in the UK government BEIS department has been for a number of years doing very thorough and robust tracking of emissions at the local authority area, and looking at it by various sectors. So, is it coming from the way we're transporting goods or ourselves, from our homes, different industry sectors? And this gives a really good baseline for where we are locally, and also importantly, a trend. Are we going in the right directions? Which sectors account for more of the emissions locally than others? And I think for me, one of the biggest takeaways is we're at the stage now whereby we have to be tackling all of these sectors at the same time. We don't have the luxury of time that we just focus on the biggest emitter first and then go to the second biggest. But it helps, I think, to see, as I say, where they're coming from, and also whether we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So this next section is quite interesting. It's not something that, before I began working for Carbon Copy, it's not something I'd ever thought about. I don't think it's something that many people think about, but just give us a little bit more information about what this imported emissions thing means.
Yeah, certainly not alone in not thinking about it, because typically we don't count the emissions that are embedded in the products that are imported into this country. It's a much harder thing to measure. And so the default, and again, the UK is not the only country that does this. Most countries do not account for the carbon emissions that are embedded in the imports, in the manufacturing process, or in shipping them and transporting them into the country. But they are a huge, account for a huge amount of emissions. And so what we've done is we've just estimated that figure, and we've got a calculation that we can share. But it's too big a number to ignore. And it gets down to one of the things we need to be conscious of is that the overconsumption potentially, and the fact that our consumption behavior does drive a huge amount of emissions above and beyond those sector emissions that we already spoke about earlier. Yeah. So it's something to bear in mind when we're looking at overall, this is a global challenge. We have to also take account for emissions that we're generating that just happen not to be over our UK territory, but nonetheless are due to us.
Yeah.
And then lastly, in terms of last but not least, for each page, we then want to tie in some of the exciting initiatives that people are working on, not only within the local area, but broadly across the UK. Because as we said at the beginning, there's so much activity that's happening in various parts that it's interesting to see, is there something happening in another local area that perhaps we can do, copy or adapt where we are. So it's really a way to get back to a lot of these climate action plans are built from the ground up with very specific, high impact, low carbon initiatives that involve a lot of people in the local community. What do they look like? Are they things that are working somewhere else that can be copied where we are, etc.? So it's a way to loop back to another part of the site where people are all the time sharing new initiatives with us.
Yeah, yeah. So that is a nice quick tour of the new Carbon Zero Explorer on the Carbon Copy website. It looks great. I'm very excited. I hope lots of people are going to check it out and be inspired by it. And yeah, just
me too.
Yeah.
So I'll just echo your words. Just in parting, say please do come and check it out. See your plans in more detail if this is the first time you've seen them, and if you've got initiatives that you would like to share, please do share them on Carbon Copy so that we can showcase them.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.